My wife's got it all decked out for Halloween already, and she was like, "I don't care what people think. It's going to be in the back of your videos. They can just, be happy with it." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not
All
going to
right.
argue."
You have kids?
Yeah, yeah. I only have two in the house now, but I had four. Two of them are in college, so.
How old? What are they doing?
Uh,
But I'm so sorry. So many questions. I see things. I just get
no,
curious.
no, no.
First, of all, so where do you live?
Yeah, I'm in Oklahoma, so
Okay, great.
my oldest son is actually active duty Air Force. He followed in my footsteps and joined the Air Force.
Cool.
And
Yeah, my son's a Marine. So yeah.
yep, yep. And
What'd you do in the Air Force?
I worked in logistics in the medical field for 12 years. Half of that was joint with the Army, so I got a lot of joint time. Um,
Cool.
I'm very familiar with the other services. The Marines were there where I was. I didn't interact with them a lot, but I did get to see them a little bit, so that was kind of cool. And then my other oldest is now we just moved him into college, so he just turned 18,
Cool.
just graduated, so he's at a local community school doing his thing now, so it's pretty awesome.
And so, what's your oldest one do in the Air Force?
So he is in avionics for special operations.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah. He was working on the radar jamming C-130 there for a little while, and then they're
Oh,
retiring
cool.
it. So now he's working on helicopters. Really, really pumped about
Cool.
that. So
Yeah, my
yeah.
son's in the pipeline. He's at Meridian, Mississippi, because he's a designated jet pilot. So he'll be flying a 35s, F-35s.
What?
Yeah.
Really? That's so
hmm
cool. That is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, he's big shit. Matter of fact, we just got done reading a book. Matter of fact, it's an Air Force book because we read a tremendous amount, and so because there's not a lot of content out there, I'm pulling that. What I'm doing is pulling up the title of it. It was a really good book on the Air Force, very good. Air Force is about the F-15s during Desert Storm.
Ooh,
It was called Skybreak.
Skybreak.
Yep, by Mike Guardia. Really good book, very good book. Matter of fact, he'd get a kick out of it too, just because they talked about the whole workup and the whole team it took to bring the Strike Eagles over.
Yeah.
And on the enlisted side, the avionics side, just the whole team concept of them fighting that aircraft during Desert Storm, and just life. You'd get a kick out of it too, just life in the Air Force.
Yeah.
We're going now, we're not going, going now, not going, not going. It was really
Hurry up and
then
wait.
talking about the 14-hour flight sitting in a single cockpit on the way over, doing like 5 or 6 refuelings, and just the
Hmm.
just the nightmare of deploying like that. So great book.
That's cool. I wrote it down. I'm gonna check it out. But you were a Marine, right? Did I
Yeah.
see that correctly? What'd you do in the Marine
Yep.
Corps?
I was called an air support control officer. It was my probably close to my last choice through TBS. So I was easiest definition of is like combat air traffic control. I routed aircraft in and out of the combat zones, and so I worked with the air tasking order and supported troops on the ground, whatever they needed.
Wow. How long were you in the Marine Corps?
So I went to the naval. Both my son and I went to the Naval Academy. So I did the Naval Academy, then did 5 years active duty, and then went right into the FBI. I
Really?
did a number of years in the reserves, but the FBI didn't allow me to really drill or anything. So I got out of the reserves officially in 2002, but never did one thing from 97 to 2002.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. So how did you get into like the FBI? Was that always kind of the plan, or did that just kind of come along when you decided to get out of Marine Corps?
I wanted to be an astronaut growing up, and everything else fell sideways.
Mm, fair. That's fair.
Yeah, FBI was my wife's idea. She applied before I did, and
Oh,
I
really?
got in. I got in. She got pregnant, and she decided she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So it all worked out really great for my kids because
Wow.
she did much better than I would have done raising our kids.
So wow. So she applied before you.
Yeah, we grew up together in the same hometown, and in 8th grade, we took a trip down to DC. I grew up in lower upstate New York is the best way to say it because I was above New York City, so we're in the sticks in the woods, which is most of New York State. And in 8th grade, we took a trip down to DC and we had a tour of the FBI building. And she fell in love with it and wanted to do that kind of white collar crime kind of stuff. And so when I was at Paris Island, my last duty station in the Marine Corps, There was some NCIS guys there on base, and she talked to them because she worked at Navy Federal Credit Union, and so she worked on base with me. And the the FBI guys would come by now and then, and so she applied, and then we had a FBI recruiter come to Paris Island looking for Marine Corps captains. I was a captain at the time, looking to get out because he said, I think Marine Corps officers make great FBI agents, and I said, all right. I had two questions. I said, does all my military time count towards retirement? And he goes, yep. So I had 9 years in total count towards retirement. And I said, I knew nothing about what the FBI did. All I knew is we made fun of them when I was at the FBI Academy. At Quantico as a Marine, the FBI Academy is right there. We made fun of them all the time just because what Marines do, we make fun of everyone.
Yeah.
And especially when you're 20 years old and a moron. And so things I learned in life to get over. Um, and I asked him, I said, so what's the retirement rate? Because I figured if people stayed to retirement, they must like the job. And so he said, well, 95 to 98% of the agents that come on board make it to retirement. I was like, all right, I'll try that. And literally the rest kind of, it just happened. When you form, kind of theme of my life, when you form really healthy, strong relationships, the path presents itself.
Hmm.
And I just kept walking the path. I had good people around me. Very fortunate. I had great people around me, kind of continually giving me some beautiful, humbling moments in life to get the focus off of me and onto where it really mattered, onto others.
So did you always want to go into like the behavioral analysis part, or was that college education, or how did you fall into that?
Literally just what you said. I fell into it. I felt everything I did in the FBI was not by design until later on. So so I get to New York City, which was not my first choice. I get assigned to New York City out of new agent school training down here at Quantico. And back when I came in, you had no idea what you're going to do. You're a general agent, and you're going to get assigned any one of the 56 field offices, and you had no idea what you're going to do because every field office, the agent in charge of that field office can assign you anywhere they want.
Hmm.
And so I got to the field office, and in New York, you did about a 6 month rotation as a new agent to learn the city, to learn the ropes before they'd assign you a squad. And New York had about 1,200 agents. I mean, it's the largest field office we have. It's massive. Matter of fact, that
Wow.
even the day I left and transferred, I rode down the elevator. I didn't recognize anyone on the elevator. I had no idea who these people were.
Wow.
And so during that 6 month rotation, you're on applicants. You then go on surveillance. So you're learning the city. And this is, I came in 1997, long before GPSs. We had Hagstrom maps. Let me tell you, when you're trying to surveil a suspected terrorist who happened to be a taxi cab driver in New York City, going between all the boroughs and three airports, and all you had was a Hagstrom's map, and you're trying to follow this person and be discreet, you learn the city fast and get lost a
Yeah.
lot.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And so yeah, I did that, and then I was at firearms. The first firearms I did up there, because in the FBI you recertify with your sidearm 4 times a year. And I was up at doing my first firearms qual, and next to me on either side of me were senior agents. I came in at 28 and a half, and which is, believe it or not, a little youngish. Agents, generally new agents, are about 30, 31, 32 years old, just because you have to have not just a college degree but life experience before you can even apply.
Hmm.
And so I'm up there, and I was wearing a Marine Corps baseball hat. And the guy on my right says to me, he says, "Hey, you former Marine?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, so am I." I said, "Really? When were you in?" He goes, "Well, I was in Vietnam during the Tet Offensive at Khe Sanh." I was like, "Holy crap!"
Mm. Yeah.
And I go, and the other guy, I can't remember what he did. Wasn't a Marine though, and they asked me, "What squad are you on?" I said, "I haven't been assigned a squad yet." And they said, "Well, you should consider coming to our squad." I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "Well, we work counterintelligence." I said, "Really? What's that?" I no idea. And he said, "Well, we work against the Russian military intelligence, the GRU, and our job is to recruit the intelligence officers from Russia that are working at the United Nations. And if we can't recruit them, we try to throw out their efforts to, do harm to national security of the United States." I said, "That sounds damn cool." And he goes, "Yeah, well, everyone on our squad, because we have a military target we're going against, pretty much everyone on the squad is also former military." I said, "Really?" So
Yeah.
you get that collective kind
Yeah.
of group think, feeling safe, because really that's what it comes down to. I was very fortunate. So when my rotation was ending, I petitioned to get on that squad just when someone was leaving. Each squad only has 10 to 12 people. I happened to apply to get on the squad at the same time someone was leaving, and I got on it. I'm getting to the behavior side here. And so when you in our job every day is to try to recruit human beings. We recruit confidential human sources to give us information about the spies we're trying to recruit, and then we're trying to recruit those spies. Huge focus on human interaction because you can't recruit anyone or have a meaningful dialogue or communication without trust. And I didn't know that yet. I thought it was all hooky spooky spy stuff, but it really comes down to strategizing trust every day. And so one of the tools that we had available to us, and I'm working on my intelligence officers I was charged with trying to recruit or monitor. And one of the things we had available to us was a thing called the behavioral analysis program. And so what happens is if you have a case that's a challenging case that you're trying to move forward on, you're kind of hit on a roadblock, you could put in for and apply to get the behavioral analysis program team to come in and assess your case. And then after they assess your case with you, they'd give you recommendations on what to do next. So I had a case on an intelligence officer that I was feeling stuck. And besides, I thought it'd be really cool to have a behavior team coming in.
Yeah.
And I made an application. They came in, they gave me a great assessment, and I thought it was the coolest damn thing I ever heard. I mean, these guys came in, they talked to me, they talked to my linguist, they talked to my surveillance teams, they took in a lot of information in one day. And there's four of them, three behavioral analysis team members, which are case agents just like me. This is a collateral duty, and an operational psychologist that was an outside contractor. Matter of fact, big names in psychology, guys. These were big guys that write books. I mean, they're world-renowned guys that we had on contract, just to make sure our science of the recommendations that were being made were sound in science as well. They came in, gave me recommendations that were, I thought, really fun, great recommendations, and I became enamored with the BAP team. It's called the Behavioral Analysis Program, and so when a couple years later, when a new person took over the team, they started having a few vacancies. They put out a canvas for new team members, and I put in and I got on. So you can't really get on the team. So any behavioral program inside the FBI, you can't join the FBI and say, I'm going to be on the behavior team. I'm being hired for the behavior, BAU or the profilers or criminal minds. No, you got to spend a lot of years on the street
Yeah. Work your way
doing the
up.
work, getting reps, getting an opportunity, having a vacancy at the right time with a skill set you have that matches the need. So I hit the right time and got on the team, and then kind of as an adjunct, it's a collateral duty, always is, until I took over the team many years later. So I got on the team back in 2002, and I retired in 2018. I was on the team the entire time, and I ran it
Wow.
for about 3 or 4 years. So, but your primary job is always a case agent doing the work. I went to headquarters and I ran a program, a Russian program at headquarters as in leadership, and then I went to the FBI Academy. I taught there. Our advanced courses the whole time, still on the team, still doing cases on the side with them, and then I took over the team for a number of years as well.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible.
Long story. I'm sorry. It's called
No.
what's called a narrative answer. Way long, but
No.
you
You're good.
asked. Your fault.
Yeah. So tell me what behavioral analysis is and kind of what it does and why it's important.
There's a lot of different kind of behavior analysis. The people in general, so I'll give you again a real big narrative answer. In general, when people hear behavioral analysis and FBI together, they're immediately thinking of the TV show Criminal Minds and the profilers. That's an aspect of it because what they do is they're always dealing with generally abnormal psychology and they're profiling. And what is profiling? Profiling is using the science of human behavior and research to identify what's called an ideal resume or a profile for someone who may have committed this crime. In other words, they're trying to find someone who they haven't found yet. And they use that research and all the leads they have in to kind of create this filter so they can find this unsub, this unidentified individual. That's profiling. They use behavioral analysis for that. My team, on the other hand, we always knew who we were going to talk to. We're strategizing human engagements. We knew who we needed to have a double agent operation against. We knew who we needed to interview for an espionage investigation. We knew who we needed to try to recruit, either as a confidential human source or a spy or whatever it is. So I always knew who we're going to engage. And so the challenge for us became how do we inspire? Because you can't convince, because we are completely anti manipulation, anti subterfuge. because all those things break trust. Because at the core of all human interaction, no one's going to give you information, no one's going to cooperate with you, no one's going to partner with you unless they trust you.
Hmm.
And trust means feeling safe. It's how do you, all we did for our behavioral analysis side is we understood human beings at a general level, which motivates us all.
Yep.
And then we took that overview of understanding human behavior and applied it then to the nuances of the beautiful human being sitting before us. So, and strategize, how do we inspire them to feel safe and trust us? Free of subterfuge, free of manipulation, so that at the end we empower them with an opportunity to do something patriotic, and it's their choice whether they do it or not. So that's what we strategize. So understanding human behavior helps us then strategize, how do you engage with any human beings? That's what happened when I started teaching this at the FBI Academy. Was they said, Robin, all right, so my thing, I recruited a decent number of people. I liked recruiting human beings. I love the human interaction. And so when I got to the academy, they said, you're going to teach us stuff, create a course. And that's when the fog started clearing. I started really putting into practice and making linear this art form that these great Jedi masters around me were teaching me by on the job training. But when you take that art form that you learn on the job, OJT, everyday life, and try to make it linear, it's like the fog clears. And then I started seeing, all right, here's what we're doing at work to try to inspire someone to feel safe and trust us. Well, hell, that's what we're doing every day with
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
And
With
so,
the bad guys.
yeah, and so like even now, since I retired in 2018, I do a lot of true crime analysis and commentary on TV and on podcasts. And it's, at first I was like, yeah, but I didn't work this in the bureau, but I worked human behavior in the bureau. And so it comes down to the same thing, human motivations before everything. And then
Yeah.
taking that skill set in 22 years or reps of understanding why human beings do things, and then just applying it to every aspect of life, both healthy, unhealthy. And there you go.
So
That's why it's important, understanding human beings.
yeah. So because of that and the nature of your expertise, when you watch like things on television, like politicians and stuff like that, does it like just drive you insane to hear them talk because
You see my
you've already
nonverbals here, take a
analyzed them?
deep breath.
Yeah. I had a feeling that was going to be the answer.
It's so it's exhausting.
Oh yeah.
You
Okay.
understand why people do what they do. So
Yep.
when you're dealing with politics, any side, I'm sorry, that's my son beeping me.
No, you're fine.
I so when you're dealing with politics or anything in the world in general, you have two levels of functioning of human brains. So you have the emotional side and you have the cognitive side. One is the higher side and the other is the lower side. The higher side, the cognitive brain, is the thoughtful brain, the brain that engages to solve problems. And when you're solving problems, you're asking very specific what questions. What specifically do I need to do to accomplish X? What was the cause of this? The emotional brain engages with the why questions. Why did this happen? Why do I feel this way? Why is he acting like that towards me? And so what happens is our social media, our media, in order to sell ad space, in order to make a profit, they appeal to the emotional brain of all human beings. And they're so every side, Nelson Mandela said this great in the early 60s. He said, news exists to provide information to satisfy its viewers. And so they're not going to provide information that satisfies non their viewers. They're only going to satisfy their views. And so, say you
Hmm.
have the right side media, the left side media. They're only going to provide information that satisfies both their viewers because that's going to sell the ads. Again, it's a really technical answer.
Yeah.
That's why it's interesting to watch because 95% of what you're watching is non cognitive, it's emotional responses to that, and people are consuming because what we do is, Robert Greene's great book Laws of Human Nature is among others of that he wrote. We consume information that validates our own self-opinion.
Oh man,
You
that's
believe
couldn't have said it better.
that's, I mean, it's what we do as human beings, because
Yeah.
if we consumed information that didn't validate what we already thought, it would make us feel very bad. And we're going to surround ourselves with people that validate our own self opinion because they make us feel good. Again, this goes to our ancient primal brain for survival, to feel valued and affiliated to meaningful groups and organizations so that we could pass on our genetic coding to others. We're going to surround ourselves with people that value and affiliate and have the same thoughts and ideas that we do.
Right.
Welcome to the world of politics. Welcome to
Yeah.
the world of elections. But it's always been this way too.
Oh yeah, yeah, forever. You can go back and look at videos of past presidents and politicians speaking, and you can
Past
hear it.
nation states dating
Oh
back
yeah,
thousands of years.
yeah. I think one of the biggest things I learned from being a leader in the military was when I was going to make decisions. Yeah, of course, I wanted people around me who thought like me, but I also wanted them to not be fearful of disagreeing with me or offering up something that I might not want to hear or I might not have thought of. Like I want that resistance a little bit, because you're only going to make smart decisions if you have like a big worldview of it. If you have just a bunch of people around you who are saying yes to you, the odds of you making a good decision, in my opinion, lower a lot. So I want people who think like me, but I also want them to be like, you know what, but what about this? Let me play devil's advocate and let's talk through this a little bit. I want that construction.
You as soon as you started talking about that, you really highlighted. I haven't thought about them in a while. The great book called "Call Sign Chaos" by General Mattis.
Yes, yes, great book.
So if anyone's heard of it, look it up. And I remember when um, General Mattis was Secretary of Defense, he had the call sign Chaos, and everyone thought Chaos because the guy's just chaos. No, I read his book. You know what Chaos stands for? Is Colonel has another outstanding suggestion. Um, so when he was a general, and even before that, as a colonel and as a light colonel, and even as he's grown up, and he talks about what you just said in his book. He said, we live in a system, and systems like things being stable and going along the way they've always been done. He said, every now and then you'll get a spark of some crazy guy in there that has this unbelievable idea. He's thinking out of the box. He's a nonconformist. He said, that's the one you got to protect. That's the one that's going to give you the ideas, that's going to solve a problem in an innovative way, because innovation only happens when you break out of groupthink.
Right.
Innovation only happens in deprivation. No leaps forward in the society of our human species has happened when we've had abundance.
Mm.
Leaps forward happen in times of desperation, in times of needing resilience, and all of it happens in those moments because as a species, we're not genetically coded for abundance. Matter of fact, another great book is the Comfort Crisis. It's called the Comfort Crisis. One of the reasons we are in such a turbulent time, it's not because we're in a turbulent time because we're facing disease, famine, extinction. We're in a turbulent time because we have so much comfort. We're not designed for it. Matter of fact, great book called I'm quoting all the books I love, called Lifespan. Talks about as a species, we live longer when we have calorie deprivation. Why do you think there's so many fad diets out there to talk about fasting? Well, yeah, because we're
Yeah.
designed to live in deprivation, calorie deprivation. We live longer when we eat less. And so, again, what happens is when we have abundance, our brains need to create a crisis in order to feel fulfilled, in order to overcome, in order to do things. As human beings, what gives us the greatest satisfaction every day is a healthy, strong relationship and crossing a finish line. Every day we need a great finish line to cross. Small one, big one, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we love having to successfully achieve something, but we can't achieve the same thing tomorrow because then it's fleeting. We always need a new finish line. And so if we have healthy, strong relationships and a new finish line every day, that makes us feel good in here. All the big four are released: dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine. They're all just flowing because it says we are good, we're feeling prosperous, we're going to pass on our healthy genetic coding to someone else. When we're abundance, our brains go bleh.
I mean, it makes total sense because, if you look at how creative we were back in the 1800s, back when they didn't even have firearms yet and there was no air conditioning, no heating, like you just wonder when you watch those shows, like if it really was like that back then. Like they couldn't just butcher like a whole deer or like a whole cow and then put it in a freezer. Like that meat had to be consumed then. So like when you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about abundance, like they were so smart and effective and kind of like streamlined and efficient because look at the limitations. But now look at all the stuff we have. We take it for granted. And I got a smartphone. I got 2 laptops. I got all this stuff. Like I don't have a worry in the world because I got things. What would it be like if I didn't and I had to figure out how to survive? That's a
I,
different scenario.
it's amazing. And even just a couple hundred years ago, I'm reading a book right now. I love biographies and I love explorers. I'm reading James Cook. James Cook circumnavigated the world 3 times. He's one of the greatest explorers during a time of, which is amazing because it's a time of European imperialism, which a lot of people hate and say is the whole downfall of the human species, which is also funny. Us as a species have conquered everyone. I mean, we wiped out all our cousins.
Yeah.
Homo erectus, Homo, all the other homos out there. We're Homo sapiens, but there's like 5 others that we completely extincted off the planet.
Wow.
Um, and all because we had the power. Another great book. It's called Sapiens. And we as a species, we evolved and conquered everyone because we had the ability to storytell and tell rumors. Um, anyway, James Cook in 1770, they hadn't even discovered Antarctica yet. It was the mythical continent they thought might exist at the bottom of the world. He's down on what was called New Holland at the time. It wasn't even called Australia. He had been the first one to land down there. His ship hit this big reef, now called the Great Barrier Reef, and it was sinking. And here you are, you're on a wooden sailing ship, 120 people. You're eating out of kegs and casks of fetid water, provisions and all these things. And he finally was able to get a ship off the reef just using sails by fathering a whole goopy thing they made up using sails and then put it on the patch the hole good enough to get it to the shoreline where they're encountering natives which wanted to kill them, that they didn't speak the language. Again, he has made first contact with more species, not species, with more different tribes on our country, on our world than anyone else has before, peacefully. And here he is. He grounds his ship with nothing but a crew of 120 people in the middle of nowhere, no resources but what they had on the ship with him, grounds the ship, patches the holes, replenishes the ship, makes all these things, makes nails, makes axes, makes all the things they have right on the resources of the ship, sets sails again and keeps going.
Hmm.
Blows your mind. It just reprovisions the ship, eats whatever's around, makes friends with the natives, and off they're sailing again.
Wow.
All under the power of wind.
Right. And what would
Blows
kids today couldn't do that?
hell. A car breaks down, people can't even change a tire anymore.
Yeah. Well, and some technologies have gotten so advanced that you don't even want to touch the car because you just
Right.
don't know what you're going to do to it. Like it's almost insane how advanced we've become, but at the detriment of our own free thinking and ability to have that survivalist instinct. And that's why when people make fun of people who prep and all that all the time and they train all the time, and I'm like, yeah, you're making fun of them, but I mean they're resorting back to those instincts and they're staying with that so that they're never satisfied, because satisfaction is just a killer, and it feeds complacency.
Yeah. And also, when you take that empathetic look at it, and empathy is just understanding something from someone else's context, they're doing what makes them and allows them to feel safe.
Yeah.
That's why they do it. And so if you disregard what someone does to feel safe, I guarantee your wall goes up, no communication, no anything. So it's just being what I call actively curious to understand what inspires them to do what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Well, let's talk about your book, Unbreakable Alliances. It's really interesting. I got it pre-ordered. It's coming out October 29th.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yep. I got it pre-ordered because I was um, I was
You'll
really
get it right there.
interested.
I got mine yesterday.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Unbreakable Alliances. This is really kind of a breakdown of your behavioral analysis, and tell us a little bit about the book and what you kind of have going on here.
Well, thanks so much. And actually, everything we've been talking about so far is in the book. It's one of those rare occasions. And I'm serious. It's this is my fourth book, and this is the first time. It's one I only wrote it last year because there's always a long lead time on these things.
Yep.
But this is everything that we've been talking about. One, another great book out there on the courage to be disliked. And what he says in that book is that every problem is an interpersonal problem. Every problem and challenge we face in life can be overcome basically if we have a great relationship. So this book, it's the fourth of my series because everything's an evolution. My first book's on rapport, second's on trust, the third's on assessing others for trustworthiness. Well, when you put all these things together and talk about the behaviors we've been talking about, to what end?
Hmm.
Everything we've been talking about is like, how do we form good, healthy, strong relationships slash unbreakable alliances? Because once we have great, strong, healthy relationships, anything can be overcome. Absolutely anything. We alone can achieve nothing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if we were meant to do things alone on this planet, we would be here alone. I mean, think about the times in your life when you're beating your head against a wall and got nowhere. And when you finally stopped beating your head against a wall and said that I give up, all of a sudden the solution is presented right before you, and it came from someone.
Yeah.
It came from someone giving you an idea. It came because you let go of your own ego agenda and stovepipe look at something, and you finally let go and opened up. And because it came from a healthy relationship, that's where it went. So that's why if you proactively create great, healthy, strong relationships in your life, you can maneuver in any direction. And more importantly, so can they. And that way we start creating these networks of great, healthy people. And people do this all the time intuitively. I'm thinking about the greatest people, the greatest leaders in organizations, the greatest salespeople, the greatest fathers, mothers, and spouses, partners. I don't care where it is. These are the ones that people, I mean, I love asking this rhetorical question. Think to yourself, who do you light up for and can't wait to see walk around a corner? When you see this person walk around a corner, you just say, oh my gosh, this is going to be the greatest day ever, or this is going to be the greatest conversation. And then ask yourself, am I that person as someone else?
Hmm.
And if not, what specifically can you do to be that person? What specifically are they doing that allows you to feel that way? Well, that's what's in the book. And the biggest thing that the arc in this book is what I call the keys to communication. The keys to communication is what demonstrates to the other person that you're present, you see them, you value them. In other words, you're telling them through your words, actions, and deeds that you are there to be a resource for them in their lives. By one, you seek their thoughts and opinions instead of giving them yours. Two, you speak in terms of their challenges, priorities, pain points, and friction points in life instead of complaining and whining about yours. Three, you validate them with non judgmental, active curiosity. You pay attention to the things they're saying to you, and you explore with that active curiosity all the nooks and crannies so you can start understanding and discovering that life arc. You know, what was spark and inspiration to be who they are today and arrive at this beautiful place with you? Because once you understand that life arc, you get context. And what's context? Deep empathy. Because you can start seeing the life through their optic, their lens. You can start predicting the things they're going to do because what we all do every day is very predictable. We're all going to act in our own best interest in terms of our own safety, security, and prosperity for those we care about and ourselves.
Right.
If
Right.
I know what that looks like to you, I now know what you're going to do every day. And then finally, the fourth thing is we empower people with choices because people feel safe when they feel like they're making the choice to move forward in things that matter to them. Granted, when you're empowering people with choices, we're giving them choices that also align with ours. And so when you actively use the keys to communication, the entire shift goes from you to them, but doesn't disregard you at all in the process. So literally it's the communication of creating alliances.
Wow. So
There you
I'm hearing that really anybody could read this book. Married couples, solo individuals, leaders in their
go.
business,
Yes.
leaders trying to grow. Like it sounds like something can be taken away, for every demographic, and communication is so important.
Absolutely, and it's really simple and profound too, and profound in a sense of profoundly simple. Because I don't write at a high level. I write like I'm speaking right now. Literally, when I was narrating it for the audiobook, the director had to correct me a few times because I was literally using words I use like right now, and but for better English in the book, a word or two is changed up. Um, it is written exactly how I'm speaking right now. And the fun thing is that the very last chapter is the chapter on mastery. I love the concept of mastery. It's getting your reps in. I call life reps. Robert Greene wrote a great book on mastery. My good friend Joe Navarro wrote a great book. He's a nonverbal expert book. Came out with a great book called Be Exceptional. And in that, he talks about self mastery. And so the last chapter in this is on mastery, falling in love with the process and not seeking a destination. So it also includes four real life exercises per each of the 8 chapters, so you can actually practice. There's no sequence, so it's like, hey, if you like practicing this, and this, try it out. It's about how to get these life reps in, and then the call, just like James Clear says in the book, Atomic Habits. This isn't about going from 0 to 100. This is about going from 0 to like 1 mile an hour. But you do 1 mile an hour more every single day over the course of a year, you're now going 365 more miles an hour faster than you were a year ago, and it didn't feel like a 0 to 100.
Right.
So
Right.
there you go.
Well, I've been writing down all these books you're recommending
I
because
know. I saw.
I'm gonna
good, good
put
for
a
you.
I'm gonna put a little book list on when I put out, because I do a blog post for each episode to help get it more traction, and I'm gonna have a little book list that you make, that your book recommendations on there, um,
Yeah, please do. They're
to go
fantastic
along with
books.
it.
Each never.
But I was also reading your blog today a little bit and looking at some of your articles. And this episode is going to come out a couple weeks away from Thanksgiving, but you had a 10 things to help you survive the
Oh yeah,
Thanksgiving.
that's a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the 10 things. I don't, if you don't remember them exactly, that's fine, but just tell me a little bit about that blog article, because I found it really interesting.
So yeah, I wrote that. What was it, about a year or two ago? I wrote that blog article. What I did was I took the 10 techniques to quick rapport, which was my first book, the self-published book, and I put a fun little article together about how to use these 10 techniques at the Thanksgiving table when things are contentious with family members.
It was
And
great.
I'll give you the teaser on that. It's fun. It is practical, but it was fun to write and fun to put out there. And I highly recommend you take a look at that. So here's the fun thing too, for anyone that's listening. If you don't have the $28 or $29 to spend on the book or the Audible or whatever, go to my website. No, you didn't mention it or go into it, but I have my own YouTube channel, and all these things that I talk about behaviorally, I've created small video clips for 3 to 5 minutes long. The 10 techniques to quick rapport. I got a video, series for those. This one actually I've written 4 videos for already and they're out there for Unbreakable Alliances. Um, the keys of communication. There's an entire series out there for the 4 keys of communication. So if you did not get enough Death by Robin here, there's plenty of Death by Robin out there.
There's more.
Oh, there's more. Oh, there's too much more. You'll turn Robin off. It's fine.
I think it's awesome, though. I love finding people like you who have done really really interesting stuff and getting to talk to them, and hearing, going from being a Marine to the FBI, and it's just so cool the way people kind of stumble upon their niches in life.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really incredible. Like, who would have thought that a Marine would have go into behavioral analysis? I think it's a really cool, it's a really interesting subject.
Well, it's leadership. It really came down to that. It's when I got assigned. It's the interesting parallel. So you talk about my life arc, and when I was very very young, I couldn't wait to go to school. I had, I wanted to interact with kids. I'm a very social, outgoing guy, and I thought the best way to do that was go to school. And so I was always fascinated by teachers at a young age for some reason. So I always wanted to teach. I always wanted to interact with people. And so the places I felt the best in my life were the places where I was in a place where I was sharing, instructing, and being a resource for others. Paris Island, South Carolina, when I was a series company commander down there at boot camp, absolutely loved it. Being in charge of 16 drill instructors and then having 250 Marine Corps recruits every 3 or 4 months, it was the most grinding, relentless, um, daunting work I've ever done in my entire life,
Oh
but the
yeah.
most profound impact I've ever made and been part of. And it was that instruction part inside the FBI. When I was on my behavioral team, running the team, and as an instructor at Quantico, I was in my flow state. I loved it. And so, when you discover the core essence of what your own why is and purpose, and you can manifest it in different ways. I found it inside the Marine Corps. I found it inside the FBI, and I found it now by writing books, sharing, creating information on videos. It's all the same core of who I am. I love to learn. I love to be humbled, and I love to take those humbling lessons and pass it on, so you don't have to be humbled.
No, so this is your, before I let you go, let's talk about your other 3 books. This is book number 4 that's coming out October 29th.
Yep.
Briefly tell us real quick about the other 3, so that I want people to be interested in going picking those up as well.
Yeah, sure. First one, which is the fun little one called "It's Not All About Me: The Top 10 Techniques for Quick Rapport with Anyone." That is 25,000 words. It's on Audible as well. It's a 3-hour listen. It's quick and easy. It's fun. I enjoy writing, and actually, it's going to be republished in a new edition in about a year. I already signed it, so we're gonna. The same publisher is putting out Unbreakable Alliances. I updated it, refreshed it because I came out with that in 2011. After that was Code of Trust. Code of Trust is the 5 techniques and strategies for creating inspiring trust. Great story arc in there about me recruiting Russian spies in the FBI, and great humbling lessons along the way. And I'm mentored, and guided by a character in there, real life character. I characterize him there. His name's Jesse Thorne. So that's about the behaviors we can do to inspire trust with others. And then after that was called Sizing People Up. Sizing People Up is now reversing that optic. It's like, all right, I know what I need to do to inspire trust. What behaviors should I look for to see if someone is trustworthy with me?
Hmm.
And so it's kind of reversing that optic and looking at others and assessing their trustworthiness, and not in a judgmental way, just what can I reasonably expect from this relationship so it can be a healthy one. And then obviously after that is Unbreakable Alliances.
Wow. Wow. So let me ask you one last question and tell me in as much or as little detail as you want. What was one of the like craziest things that you did or saw in the FBI?
9/11.
Okay. Were you
Hands
still
down.
in New
I mean,
York?
yeah, look. So this is a piece of glass from the Trade Center. I keep it
Wow.
right back there. So I saw our field office in Manhattan was about 5 blocks away from the World Trade Center,
Wow.
and my car was 30 feet away from one of the engines that hit the South Tower from the jetliner that landed like 30 feet from my car. I saw 8 people jump from the North Tower before the second tower was even hit. So yeah, I was very very close, and so that was chaos.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. I
life,
can't imagine.
yeah, it was. Things hit people in different ways. I was so profoundly impacted by the people that would stand on the corners 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for months and months on end, in all weather, cheering us, holding up signs, little kids out there, please find my daddy, please find my mommy, thank you for saving America. I mean, it was very impactful. So that was probably the craziest thing ever. So I saw when I was watching, I'd counted the eighth person jump from the North Tower as the fireball came through the South Tower. That was the most unreal thing I've ever seen in my entire life because I was right there.
Yeah. Oh, I interviewed I can't think of his name now. I interviewed a New York City police detective who was literally on patrol down there in Manhattan, just a
Yep.
couple blocks away when that happened, and him recalling that story is just like, I can't imagine the shock of just going. There's no way this actually happened. Just
It was so surreal to watch. It's just, yeah, it's just very surreal. Watching. I remember when the South Tower, no, North Tower came down, and just that debris cloud coming at you. You're
mm-hmm.
like, oh my god. I'm looking at because there's about 300 or 400 of us agents on the street as they're trying to figure out, talk about chaos, trying to figure out what to do with us. And they kept shifting us around different areas. And all of a sudden the tower is coming down, and I had no idea what it was at first because it looked like because the debris was so high, the dust cloud was so high, it just looked the top had fallen off. But as the entire thing's collapsing, that entire huge cloud's coming at you, and you're looking around. Literally, what's going through your head is, "Wow, me and 300 people are going to die right now."
Wow.
You're just like, "This is it." I mean, you're a lot, and watching death coming at you, it was crazy.
Yeah, because you just don't like you can watch those videos on TV or on YouTube of like them blowing
Yeah,
up a old tower and it collapsing, but they're a mile away or whatever, and you go, "Oh, that was cool," but like that's demolition, it controlled demolition. That's not chaos in the moment, standing a couple blocks away. Like that's crazy.
yeah. I was, and so our building, 26 Federal Plaza, is it's how tall it is. I think we're about 35, 40 stories high, maybe a little higher, and we're about 5 or 6 blocks away when the South Tower came down. Because I was on the street when the first tower came down, the South Tower came down. I mean, you thought it was a massive earthquake. That building was rocking and rolling, man.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, Robin, before I let you go, one again, thank you for coming on and doing this. This is fantastic. It's super interesting. But tell people where they can go to find more about you and get the book.
So before I tell people where to go find more about me, I want people to take a subscribe, hit like, and share what you do because
Oh,
you put a lot of time and effort and do a
thank
great
you.
job of bringing out great stories. So everyone,
Appreciate it.
please, Jeff goes through a tremendous amount of time, effort, and resources to make sure that you get great people providing content to try to make your life a little bit better, a little bit easier, and a little bit more
Thank you.
entertaining. So please
Yeah.
do that for them. But on to me, I'm really simple and easy. Everything is under robindreeke.com, ROBINDREEKE.com. I got my YouTube. I got a channel on there called the Behavior Corner. Under that, you have all my YouTube trainings on there. There's also Udemy courses you can pay for if you want certificates and things like that. My books are on there. You can also get them through Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or all the main places. But also, if you are, I mentioned it, if you're into true crime, I have a true crime channel on there because I'm on a weekly show on True Crime Podcast. There, I think I got like 200 episodes. So if you're into true crime at all, covering all the recent cases on everything, I do a lot of commentary with the host Tony Bruschi on there. I'm also on Nancy Grace a bunch. Those are on there.
What's it
So
called
if you're into
again?
true crime, which one?
The first one you were mentioning. That one of like 200
Uh,
episodes.
yeah, Tony Bruschi is the guy's name, and it's True Crime Today.
Ooh, okay.
And just go to my channel. You'll see it on there. He does a great job. So we talk about all the current cases. Matter of fact, today we just talked about the P Diddy case
Oh
or
my
Diddy Combs
gosh.
case. We talk a lot about the Idaho murders. We did today. We did Alec Murdaugh going to retrial probably.
Mm-hmm.
Donna Adelson and the murder for hire case down in Florida. We cover them all. So you name it, I can
Interesting.
talk true crime left and right. It's pretty intriguing stuff.
Yeah. Oh, me and my wife like true crime stuff too. Like we love the drama of it all, and you just sitting there on the couch judging people. Like, why would you do
Because they're not smart. just
that?
it's just crazy, sad. It's anytime. I mean, just profiling these people. If someone, if all of a sudden you find a spouse that's murdered, the first question I have is, are there kids and is there a custody battle? Kind of strange that my mind automatically goes to that.
Yeah.
Murder for hires and custody battles. That's pretty common. That's what the Adelson case is all about.
Wow.
Um, sad stuff. So you're always looking for the spouses or boyfriends first because it's a very rare thing where a stranger just walks up indiscriminately and randomly kills someone unless it's a gang hit or something. But other than that, there's always foreknowledge of someone and there's some sort of targeting of vengeance in some way. I also do all the profiling of all the shooters, the Trump assassination people and all that too, because
Wow.
sad souls out there.
Yeah. I'm gonna check it out. It sounds really interesting.